Wait for it to say. Hi, we're recording a separate section for just the nurses since it was all CNAs at the last meeting. There's a few things we want to go over. Number one is that when we get an admission, skin checks, the whole body audit needs to be completed and put in under assessments. The skin checks are also getting missed on bath days and passed off to a different day or not even being passed off at all. This is happening even if the nurse is giving the bath. So we are very well aware that there's an issue going on here. And we're just going to reiterate that it has to be completed. And after this is your education. So then if we are seeing it's not happening, we'll approach you. And if it's not a valid reason that's happening, we will be handing out verbal orders over it. The second thing is leaving notes on medications for the next shift to order is not appropriate. You can't just write AM to order on a medication, expect AM to see your PM card or overnight card. Every shift has the ability to fax to the pharmacy to order the medication themselves. Anything else on that?
Not on that one.
No. Okay, the next one is if a hospice resident needs anything, every nurse has the ability to call the hospice nurse. Hospice is a 24/7 service, not just an AM service. So if they fall, if you feel they need a change in medications, if you need any equipment for them, you can call. Every person on hospice has another clinic RN that will be able to address the need or say, hey, no, that's not an appropriate medication for that person. But it goes night shift can call, and if they want any kind of atropine is the word I keep thinking of, but anticholinergic medication, you have the ability to call the nurse, get the nurse up, and ask if it's an appropriate item for this resident. You don't have to wait for the case manager. You don't need to pass it on. Anything else on that one?
No.
Let's see. Now, if a doctor writes an order that increases or decreases a medication, when we're doing this, you don't need to write DX pending in the order. You can write the last diagnosis from the medication and put it into the new order because we have the previous diagnosis.
Yeah, I mean, just for an example, say you have Tylenol that's 325 every once a day for pain, and the previous, that is what the order reads. Now you get a new order saying increase to 650 once a day or twice a day, whatever it is. When you go to put in that order for Tylenol for that new increase in the dosage and frequency, leave the diagnosis as pain. Don't put it back as pending because you have the previous diagnosis. The only way you would do that is if they flat out tell you it is not for pain. But if they're telling you that, then you should be asking what it's for. Just always keep that already previous diagnosis with the medication so that we're not having to backtrack and re-ask for a diagnosis.
Okay. Eardrops are stored in the med rooms. Eye drops are stored in the med carts. I just want to make that clarification one more time. Another item about processing orders is you always need a second nurse check. And both me and Caitlin feel even if there's 2 nurses in the building on each shift, you should be able to get that second nurse check completed unless there's special circumstances. I mean, like special, like maybe Nissa is working your shift with you and probably can't get that second nurse check completed for you, but only under special circumstances do orders get passed off from shift to shift.
Yeah, I see a lot when I'm grabbing my papers in the morning and scanning that it's probably been left either from PM shift or night shift or something, whether it was PM shift that had to do the second nurse check or then night shift still didn't do the second nurse check. So that second nurse check isn't being done at all. Day shift, if you're getting an order, there's so many nurses in the building, obviously, unless it's a weekend, but you've got case managers, you've got nurses on the floor, whichever, any of them can do a second nurse check.
Yeah.
There's no reason why your orders from day shift should go to PM shift to do a second nurse check. Only circumstance for that would be obviously if it's a super hectic, crazy day and there's stuff going on. Or if you get an order, say at 2 o'clock and it's about shift change. I mean, obviously then, yes, have PM shift do that second nurse check. Same goes for PMs. 9 times out of 10, there's at least 2 nurses in the building on PM shift. Again, unless it's super crazy or you're getting an order right at shift change, there's no reason why you guys shouldn't be doing that second nurse check on PMs. So night shift, the only time they should be doing anything with orders is if they're receiving a new order on night shift. They shouldn't have to be doing the second nurse check and doing all of that. The other thing is with that is don't assume that if you have orders, don't assume that the other nurse in the buildings or on the other stations know that you have orders. Take the book down to them and be like, here, I have orders for you to second check. Can you please do it? Don't just assume they know that you do, because they don't know. And they're not going to come and ask you if you do. You need to take the initiative to take it to them and say, hey, I have orders. If you are having the next shift do it, tell them and report. Tell them when you're standing right there after counting, hey, I have orders, I need you to second check. Can you do that? Don't just assume that they're going to look at that book and see the papers and see and know that they have more to check.
And one thing with that, I would suggest when you're done processing the order the first time, put it in the book. Don't leave it in a stack of papers.
No.
Don't do it, leave it on the desk. Put it in the book and pass the book off. Because
Yes.
we just had that VA that was about, we lost an order for a week.
Yeah, you never should just be passing the papers around. Always file right away and be passing the book around. I mean, there's plenty of times when I'm going through and I'm grabbing papers in the morning to scan in, and all of a sudden 2 days later, I have papers that were from 2 days ago. Well, where have these papers been for these 2 days? Like, where have they been keeping at? Are they on someone's desk? Are they hidden somewhere and they just came across it? Always file those papers immediately.
And then once again, if you don't know about processing an order or how to process an order, always put a progress note in. Ask Caitlin.
Ask me. I can help you.
Don't leave it for the case managers. Don't slide it under the doors. Don't put it in their mailbox. It needs to either go back into the mailbox if you absolutely cannot process it, or you need to fax the doctor for clarification of the order if it's ever in question.
But file it in the book too. I mean, I'll catch it the next morning. Don't leave it laying on the desk because it's going to get shuffled with other papers and get mixed in with somebody's resident report sheet or something else that they're going to go toss in the shred it box. And now you just lost that order. File it in the book. If you need to, make a copy of it and keep the copy out, but file the original.
Yeah. You guys can ask us any questions about that if you really want.
Absolutely. Always ask questions.
Always. The last thing for nursing staff or nurses or licensed nurses is that when a resident leaves the building, you need to document when they're leaving and when they're coming back. And then if they're going to the doctor, you need to write that they went out for an appointment or in an order. If they had nursing home rounds, you have to write nursing home rounds in your order.
I just see a lot of, especially, I think it kind of all started when we got that specific orders note that you guys use for typing orders. All you guys reference in that note are the new orders, which is great and fine. But if it was from a clinic appointment, include in that note, seen at the clinic. If it was on nursing home rounds, say seen by Dr. Joyce on nursing home rounds, whichever it is. You can either include it in that same note or do separate note referencing that. Technically, if they're going for an appointment, it should be a separate note because you should be charting resident left the building to go to appointment. Resident came back from appointment. You should be charting it in and out. Even if they go with family out for supper, you should be charting they left with family, they're coming back with family. If possible, also, if you know what doctor they're going to see for an appointment, include that in your note as to who they saw, because in next shift that might have questions about those orders, they might reference back to your note to see who they saw if they need to reach out to them and not have to try and decipher a person's signature. Also, I personally, in orders, I use that a lot to know that I have to find a clinic note or a progress note or something referencing that appointment. I go off of that a lot based on the notes and along with the orders themselves.
Okay, anything else for us, Caitlin?
The only other thing I kind of have, and I wish I would have remembered to mention this at the other meeting, but I didn't, so we'll talk about it some other time. But if you're given like a task or a job or something that you need to complete, if you absolutely can't, yes, ask for help and ask a question, but go to one person. Ask one person for help. And if that person can't help you, then tell them, okay, don't forget it. I'll ask somebody else, but make sure they don't try. Don't involve the entire building for one thing and get 15 other people involved to solve the problem. Also, give all the information that you have. If you were given steps and instructions on what to do, include that with it when you're going to talk to the person for help so that they have the background and they have the information to go along with that. There's just a lot where too many people end up involved and too many hands in the mix to try and solve one problem, but, I mean,
No.
obviously ask for help if you don't know, but just stick with one person at a time.
And then if you do include more than that one person, please let them know that you have
Yes.
involved more than one person also.
Yes.
So, we're all not working on the same task, and this can be related to medications or your equipment, or it can be related to
Anything.
anything, like resident cares, anything, family
Yeah.
complaints. You just please either refer them to the person that's dealing with it, or don't go to the whole facility, guys.
Yes.
Okay,
That's pretty good.
have a good day. Bye.